Hi, Eric.
Hi, Reza. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this talk.
Thank you for joining. Eric, just a few words about you. Eric and me, we met a few years ago for creating the loyalty program for Gary Lafayette Jakarta. And I have a huge, big respect for him, for his as a person, but also as a professional and as a teacher, because I think you have a very great talent for teaching and transmitting your knowledge. I'll be really, I'm always grateful for what you taught to me at that moment. So Eric, just a quick introduction from yourself, who you are and where you come from and what you have been doing and etc. etc.
Well, first of all, I'm French. I'm based in Paris, France. I'm a consultant specialized in CRM and data and loyalty programs. I started working for companies in retail and in companies that make loyalty cards also. And then 15 years ago, I ended up to be a consultant. So since 2 months, actually, I'm a consultant in freelance. And I do a CRM for retail brands in France, of course, but also abroad. Okay, we work together in Jakarta, but I also worked in Dubai or in Moscow, Russia, and in several countries in Europe. So loyalty programs are one of my favorite topics to talk about. So once again, thank you for inviting me to talk about this.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to have you. So loyalty program is your favorite subject, but how you define a loyalty program?
Well, loyalty to me is very simple. It's every means you can develop so that your customers prefer your brands compared to competitors. So that's the objective, the aim of loyalty program is to develop this preference. Okay, and preference is first of all emotional. It's not only a matter of money. But when we look at almost every loyalty programs in the world, they all give points and vouchers and money and gifts. So all these rewards are monetary rewards. So what is important is to develop also emotional benefits for the customers so that they prefer your brands and not the competitors' one.
Yeah, that's exactly what my previous guest was saying, and he was saying that what is important is the heart and the mind combined together, and then you get the loyalty from the customer.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So we are not going to go to all the subjects of loyalty because there are so many different subjects. I would like to have your opinion on how to start, basically how to calculate if a loyalty program is profitable and how to make a profitable program. I mean, is at the beginning when we start, we have to calculate the P&L and see what makes sense, what generosity rates we put there, what kind of things we put inside the program, and at the end, what kind of output we get. So how we do that?
Well, there are two different situations. The one we worked together in Jakarta was for the opening of a new store. So you don't have any data, you don't have any figures to estimate how many loyalty program members you will have, how much they will spend in your store. So this is the first case to discuss. The second one is, well, you already have a loyalty program and you want to enhance, to improve it, to make it more profitable. So if you agree, we will talk about these two cases. So the first one, when you open, you're about to open a store, a new store, and you want to offer a loyalty program to your customers. You have to evaluate the number of customers that will come into your store, so the traffic, and how many of them will get a loyalty card, will be enrolled, and how much they will spend. So that's a series of hypotheses, assumptions that are not very easy to elaborate, but when you have that's why people ask consultants to help them, because they of course have the experience on this. So it's a series of assumptions based on the traffic. For example, if your store is in a mall, you start from the traffic of customers and visitors that come into the mall, the share of them that will come into your store, the share of them that will take a loyalty card, and the share of them that will buy at least once during the year, and then how many times the buyers will purchase during the year, and for how much they will buy, average basket each time. So with all this, you will have the number of loyalty programs, number of buyers, number of loyalty program members, number of buyers, and how much they will purchase. So this is one part of the P&L. On the other hand, of course, you have all the costs. A loyalty program costs a lot in marketing costs, in-store, branding, of course, direct communication, mobile app, website, also all the cost of the reward, of course. The most usual rewards are points that can be redeemed into gifts or vouchers that you can spend in the store. So this is usually very efficient. And of course, you have also all the IT costs that may be important, depending on if you externalize the costs at a supplier, or if you need to make some IT developments in the company. So that's the first way to do it when you open a store and you want to launch a loyalty program. The second case is when you already have a loyalty program and you want to make it more profitable. The first thing is to evaluate the current P&L. So that means you need figures on the number of loyalty members, the number or the share of members that buy, how many times they buy during the year, for how much. So this is always the same equation. When you have these figures, you have to make some projections, assumptions for the future. When I do this, I try to make some assumptions in the next 4 years. 3 years is too short, 5 years is too uncertain. So usually 4 years is okay. And then you have to compare the figures that you will get in the next 4 years for the current loyalty program and for the new loyalty program. And of course, the objective is that the new loyalty programs makes more money and costs less, or at least is more profitable. So it's really this comparison between the current loyalty program and the new loyalty program with a forecast in the next 4 years that will be important to evaluate. Also, it will be easier to evaluate the difference of frequency of purchase and amount of purchase because you already have current figures. So it's in this second case, it's really easy. I mean, easier.
In your experience, what makes sense in terms of cost of loyalty in total revenue of a company?
Well, well, it depends on what we're talking about. First of all, the first KPI is the share of turnover made by loyalty program members in the overall turnover. For non-food retail brands, a good loyalty program is over 60% of the turnover, or the total turnover made by loyalty program members. 60%. Okay. For supermarkets, hypermarkets, or food retailers, it's more than 80%. So these are basically French figures, but in Russia also had this kind of figures as well. So 80–90% in the food sector is a good KPI. If we talk about margin, we can expect to increase the overall margin by 0.5 to 1%, 1 point of margin for overall margin. So this is what you can expect if you launch a good loyalty program, and also because the key for profitability, that's very important, is not the benefits you offer to your customers, is the animations, the marketing campaigns, targeted, personalized campaign that you will do and send to your customers so that they come back to your store or buy in your e-shop.
Yeah,
so that's really important.
Yeah,
how you will make direct marketing campaigns.
Okay. And today, in terms of direct marketing, do you count only EDM, or are you counting now also the social media, I don't know what mobile apps, of course.
Any kind. Well, of course, I include social media if you have the means to target your customers and send them really personalized messages.
Okay.
But of course, social media are just compulsory. And if you're based in Asia, of course, it's just not possible to not to communicate on social media.
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah. And in terms of frequency of communication, sorry, we just go a little bit that way, but we will come back to our subject. But in terms of frequency, what makes sense? What makes sense to not disturb the customers? Because today the customers, they receive so many information. So what makes sense from a retailer as a frequency in the communication?
Well, market research shows very interesting results, and the learnings are that it's not the frequency which is important, it's the accuracy of the message. And it depends on, we are going to talk about clustering. If you send messages to your best customers, you can send a lot of messages because you are their preferred brand. They love your brand. So if you send them very accurate information, promotions, very interesting offers, they will love it. So you can communicate once or twice a day.
Once or twice a day?
Of course, a day, yes. So that's what I see in France, or if I look at Amazon, but it's a particular example, but it's several times a day. Fnac also is several times a day. For very, very good customers, it's not a problem. For smaller customers, once every, let's say twice a week is okay.
So everything depends on the relevancy of the communication. Yes. Yeah, because I subscribe to a lot of different loyalty programs just to receive, and just because I'm curious.
So do I.
Yeah, exactly. So and there are some brands from, for example, the US brands, the department stores, not even online.
Yeah.
They send me up to 2 or 3 times, and I'm not even their best customer. I'm not even their customers. You know, I'm just somebody curious that subscribe to their e-newsletter, and they send me up to 2 or 3 times per day communication, which most of the time is not relevant because they don't have any data from me, but they are very, very active, very active, which was not our case in Galeries Lafayette. When I used to communicate with the customer, I used to send them 1 or 2 times per week, based on whatever offer that we had and based on the segmentation that segments that we wanted to communicate with them. Okay, so yeah, it can go up to 1 or 2 times per day to the best customers, and there is no issue. Yeah, they can accept it. Yeah.
Well, some retailers, some brands are consider that as now sending an email doesn't cost anything. They can send to anybody many times. So you have to be cautious and to differentiate the frequency of contact according to the clustering.
Yeah. Okay.
But after the cost can be sometimes from 0.5 to 2% of the turnover. So it can be a lot. So that means if you are able to spend this amount, you have to make lots of additional turnover. Then you multiply by the margin rates. Then you have to deduct, thank you, all the costs, and then you have the net margin. So that's all the exercise that has to be done to evaluate the profitability of the program. And so the method is the same all the time, but Each time it's a particular situation, because it's a different company, it's a different period, it's a different sector. And of course, the CEO is not, or the CFO, they have some financial constraints, and well, you have to do with them, of course.
Yeah. Okay. And just also to understand, compared to the total budget of marketing of a company, what the loyalty program should represent?
Very different from one brand to another. A brand like Sephora, for example, that sell perfume all over the world, their marketing strategy is totally based on a loyalty program, because all the offers that and discounts that are made through the loyalty program. And of course, it's not the same. It's not the same for all the retailers in the world. So it's hard to answer your questions, Reza. I'm sorry.
I was just curious if you had any data on that.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we covered pretty much this part of our discussion. Let's move to the second part, which is once we have enough data, and what means having enough data? This is the first question. And once we have enough data, what we do with that data? What kind of segmentation do we have? What are our choices?
Okay. The first thing to have to make really relevant marketing campaigns is to develop a clustering, a value-based clustering. And you can start after a few months after you launch the loyalty programs. Let's say 4 to 6 months. It's let's say the first version of your clustering. And a very easy thing to do and to start with is what we call, in French, it's PMJ. That means a small, average, and big segmentation. So we can call it SAB, maybe in English. Small, average, and big customers. It's very easy to do. I will show you an example. In your database, you sort all your loyalty program members according to how much they spent during the period. So usually I do this over a year, but you can start by doing it after the first 4 months or 6 months, as I said. So you have the biggest customer and the smallest one, and you sort the customer like this, and you see the according amount of purchase they've done. So that makes pyramids like the one I will share with you. Okay, this is so the very simple value-based customer segmentations. You can see on this example, it's a real example of a French retailer that sells items for cooking, for the kitchen, and you can see that the 10 biggest customers on the left pyramid, they make 44% of the total turnover, and they spend in average 478 euros. It's the fourth column at the right. And the smallest customers. They are 40% of the total database, and this 40% spend only 8% of the total turnover. They spent 23 euros compared to 478. So that's at the beginning, it's the first thing to do, because you understand also, of course, that if you take the 30% best customers, they spend more than 70% of your turnover. So these are really the best customers. And it's important, it's a real issue to make them loyal to your brand. Okay, so that's very simple to do. Even with the Excel, you can do it. Just sort by the turnover. I've got a second example, which is more relevant if you start by, if you want to understand what is the behavior of your customers. It's called recency, frequency, and amount of purchase segmentations. It's based on data science with a predictive analysis. And you have, as an input of parameters, you have the frequency of purchase, you have the recency, that means the date of the last purchase, and you have, of course, the average turnover, average amount of purchase that each customer make. And with the data science, you will have this kind of tree that shows that in this example, it's the same retail brand, the same retailer. You see that on the left, you have customers that purchase 8 or 9 times during the year. But the average basket is really different. It's 3 times as much for the VIP segment cluster on the left compared to the good customers on the right. So that means that you have very, very, very good customers that come 8 times a week and spend a lot. Okay. Then you can see that the frequency is diminishing. You have the new members that you always have to consider as a separate cluster. And the bottom of the pyramid I showed you just before, you have all the small customers, and the difference between all of them, see they spend almost the same amount during the year, but the difference is some of them have their last purchase very recent, 1.7 months, compared to these 27% of customers that didn't buy since in the last 10 months. Sorry. So with this, you can really target precisely your customers and send them different offers. That's what is very important. I really insist, to make a loyalty program profitable, you have to differentiate the direct communication.
So I have a question
yes.
on this. So once we did this, I actually have 2 questions. What is the frequency to do it again?
Okay.
This is one thing. And second is, which part do we work with? Give us an example, for example, with the VIP. What do we work with the VIP? And for example, for the occasional minus, what we work with them in order to change their behavior.
Okay. The VIPs, it's important to communicate very frequently, as we said before. And of course, you send them all the commercial news, I would say, everything that happens in the store. So this is the regular, let's say, animation of the brand. But also, it's important to make them feel an important customer. So you have to give them the proof that you acknowledge the fact that they are good customers. So you can offer them exclusive services like free delivery. You can invite them to special events. Send them invitation maybe 2 or 3 days before the sales, so they would have private sales. So it's not very difficult to organize that. It's very powerful if you manage to make them feel unique. That's the objective. On the other hand, for what I call occasional customers, it's useless to send them too frequent messages. They usually are interested in sales period, so you have to communicate on 3-4 times a year on the main offers, like Christmas, like well, it depends on the country, of course. Summer sales, winter sales, etc., etc. So it's important to give them big discounts so that they come back to your store. Because if somebody came only once and didn't come back for the last 10 years, you have to invest, of course, to make them to make them buy again, to make them come back to your store.
Okay, and then the first question was how often we have to update this segmentation.
Okay, so it depends on the average frequency of purchase. I come back here. You can see that in average, loyalty program members buy twice a year in this brand. So it's of course different if you are a food retailer, because the same figure would be twice a week. So I currently work for a French food retailer, and they have this kind of segmentation. They refresh the segmentation every month, and they calculate it on the last 4 months. So the data they use, it's the last 4 months, and they update the clustering every month. And of course, in the example I show you, it every 6 months to refresh, to update the segmentation, the clustering is largely enough.
Okay, so for the department store also is the same as this one. Yeah, it's 2 times per year purchase. Okay, great.
I have a last example of clustering, totally different. So far, we talked about the value of the customer, how much they purchase during the last year. So it's very useful to evaluate how much you are able to invest on each customer. Of course, you will invest a lot on VIPs and good customers and less on small customers. And I have another example, which is based on the purchasing behavior of customers. So it's not a matter of how much they spend, it's what kind of product do they spend. So this is an example for a French retailer that sells sports and fashion items. And with the data science analysis, we realized this clustering with two main axes. The first one, vertical one, so that you can see is that you have children items that are purchased on the top of this example. At the bottom, it's only adults items that customer bought. And the horizontal axis is sport items on the right and fashion item on the left. So you can see on the opposite, for example, if you look at the A10 cluster, these are 13% of the customer that makes 15% of the turnover. These are families that buy more sport shoes than the other customers. So they have to, for example, there will be boys that play football, for example, soccer. And at the opposite, the A4 cluster is adults, I mean, that buy only adults items and only fashion items. They don't buy any sport items. So they come to the store only for fashion wear.
Yeah.
Okay. And last example, look at the A1 and A9 clusters. They are adults that make sports, and especially they ride their bike. You know?
Yeah.
So you can see that it's the same retail brand, the same retailer, but customer don't buy the same kind of items. And of course, when you will do direct marketing, you will communicate with personalized offers, messages, images in the emailing that will correspond to what they buy. So your communication will be more efficient and your payback will be higher.
Yeah. So for example, to the A9 cluster, you will never propose anything for kids, for example, because most probably they don't have any kids. And to the A1, you will not propose any too much fashionable items neither. Yeah. And what kind of data? I mean, in this case, you need all the data that you have, no? What?
No, in the previous clusterings, you only have you only need to get the amount of purchase per ticket. Okay, in this example, for this purchasing behavior clustering, you need the detail of what customer buy. That means you need to get each line of a ticket. So all the items bought by loyalty program members. So this is a bigger database. It needs, as I said, data science methods and tools to create this clustering, but it's very powerful after when you communicate to your customers.
So you need a very specialized people to make this kind of, because the two first methods, the first one is pretty easy. I think
anybody can do it.
exactly. With a good Excel knowledge, even not with a good Excel knowledge, you can already do it. The second one, a little bit more complicated because three-dimensional. So a little bit.
Yes, and we use nowadays it's important to use data science method.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit more complicated. But the third one I mean, if you are not a data scientist, or if you don't have
Absolutely,
somebody
yes.
like that in your team, it's impossible to do something like that. Yeah.
Well, you have to ask a consultant. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. That's I remember that's why I asked you to do this, because I remember you did it for I think for Guy Lafayette, yeah, and there were 12 or 13 different profiles that
Yes.
came up, and they were like fashionistas. They were like my kids first. They were like used to call them Papa Pool.
Classical.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I thought it was very interesting method, because here we are really into very specific segmentation, and then usable to really create value for the customers and to communicate with them
Yes.
in a very good.
And now you can use very powerful marketing campaign automation tools. And that few years ago it was a bit complicated to create lots of targets and personalize all the messages according to the cluster. Now it's much more easier.
Yeah.
Okay. And these are very powerful example for most of retailers now. You have to include also the behavior of customers on the web, on the website of the brand. And if you so this is the same kind of data science method to do it, and you can get very interesting learnings as well.
Yeah. And what you see today, the behavior of the customers offline and online of the same retailer, is it going in the same way, or is it their behavior is a little bit different?
All the data analysis show that customers who purchase both online and offline have a higher value compared to the ones that buy only on one channel. I see that in every client I have, and that's the real difference. That's the real difference. But when the purchase, I mean, you always had the same kind of segmentation, like the one you have, you can see there. So that's not a big difference of purchasing behavior for non-food retailers. For food retailers, it's different because some people, for example, in France, they want to have home delivery for bottles of water and heavy items. So they don't buy them anymore in store. But on the opposite, they would never purchase, for example, fruits and vegetables because they want to choose them in the store. So these are some differences that we can see when we analyze the database.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing all these slides and all your knowledge. Do you have anything else to add? Anything that?
No, just never forget the objective of your loyalty program. Make the preference of your brands. So that's what is important.
Okay, great. Thank you for this word of the end.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Rosa. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for accepting my invitation and take your time. Thank you so much. I cut the
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
bye-bye. Thank you.